Is it visible?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
Kunal,
visible.
visible.
Yeah. So if we talk about the ROA of 5 star, why it's so high? So if we see the expenses of the company, if you see 5 star has only 54% of expenses against its total income, while we see Fusion, Satin and Spandana, it has almost 90%. So the PAT conversion of 5 star is very good at 35% almost, while the Fusion, Satin has almost 6% and Spandana has 14%. If we go further in the expenses of like finance cost, so the interest on debt securities 5 star has all half, and on interest on borrowings 5 star has almost half of other companies. Like Fusion has 300 crores, while Satin has 390 crores. If you see the impairment on financial instruments, 5 star has so less, like 43 crores only, while it has on Fusion has almost 3 times, I guess. In terms of employment benefits, Satin has the highest, as its employees are almost double of 5 star. So that's why the reason ROA is highest of 5 star against the other companies. That's all.
Okay, so guys,
What?
I have had a discussion with Kunal offline. Okay, I wanted Kunal to present his view, and I want you guys to sort of, satisfy your curiosity by questioning him. Yeah, matlab,
So
jo
I
bhi
have one question
yeah,
then.
go ahead.
This I don't understand this impairment on financial instruments. So basically, this is. I
Uh,
mean, could you explain this one once?
this one is something reduction in fixed assets. Till in my knowledge, that's something.
They are basically write down some write-offs of
Yeah,
assets or
Okay,
loans which they are not able to recover.
yeah,
got it. So basically, amongst the four companies that we see over there, 5 star is probably very efficient at giving loans, and hence their
yes.
write-offs are pretty low compared to say Fusion, Satin, or Spandana. Whereas
Spandana,
Spandana is really high, I think.
yeah,
Got
it
it.
has the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, ask questions. We need to get to the
Uh,
bottom of this.
Kunal, this is Surendra.
Yes, yes.
The in finance cost, the it is the amount or the what is it a percentage of like
It's the
like
amount in crores.
then the interest depends on the amount of debt they have, right?
Good question, Surendra.
Yes,
Then like it's better if you do it in terms of percentage so that we can compare even in salaries and wages. I don't know, but I think maybe Nirvan should tell. Is
So
it a good way?
salaries, I think we can see on the left-hand side column, right? It's 16%, 19.7. For Satin, it's very high, and Spandana, it's low. So
Yeah,
five
so
star is
the
Uh,
biggest difference is where, guys? The biggest difference, as far as I can see, at least with Fusion and Satin, it's with finance cost,
finance cost, yeah.
right? So what
yes.
is the parameter that you guys should be checking to check how?
Equity, right? Isn't it? The equity
No,
that the 5 star is bringing.
no, Gaurav. So finance cost is what basically? Like, what is finance cost?
So the loan that or the so
uh,
basically NBFC cannot take deposits, right? So they need to at least
Correct.
they either buy treasuries or they bring in equity, right?
No, so buying treasuries is on the asset side. So on the liability side, they will raise money from banks, right? Or
Ah,
from
right.
other, by issuing bonds. They can't take
Mm-hmm.
deposits, as you
Correct,
rightly
correct,
said.
correct, correct.
So they are raising money from banks and they are sort of issuing bonds, right?
Hmm.
So what is the metric that will tell you, why they have such low finance costs? There is a
I think
metric that we have
cost of
presented in the,
funds.
yeah, cost of funds. Exactly. Who said that?
Yeah, Surendra.
Yeah, great, Surendra. Yeah, cost of funds. That is exactly what.
Hmm.
So, Kunal, that is what you had to sort of, to explain, you've already captured the ROA tree nicely. So you can see that one of the major differentiators is the finance cost. So for earning 100 rupees of interest revenue, uh, this company is spending only 27 rupees as finance cost, whereas Fusion and Satin are spending 43. Spandana is also spending a low amount. So the first thing you should go back and check is what is the cost of borrowing for this company over the last few quarters, few years,
Yes.
and whether that cost of borrowing is sustainable or not, right? Or why does it have such a big advantage? So to my mind, the cost of borrowing for Five Star should be much less compared to Fusion and Satin. And given that they are more or less of the same size, it's a very interesting phenomenon to find out, figure out, do they actually have that advantage, and if they do, how are they sustaining it? Yeah, because all
Yes.
companies are new, all companies are of more or less the similar size. Yeah, and the next big difference is basically the impairment, right?
Hmm.
So impairment, now what is the metric that we should be looking at to figure out why impairment is low?
Your
NPAs.
NPA?
Yes, NPA. NPA is the balance sheet figure. So bigger NPAs mean that there is a P&L line item. What is the P&L line item where NPA hits are captured?
Provisions?
Yes, provision. Exactly. Provisions and write-offs. That is what this Rishikesh was trying to explain, that impairment and other provisions is nothing but write-offs and provisions, right? So if you are not a disciplined lender and you have high GNPA and NPA, then ultimately you will have to provision for them, right? Because RBI has certain guidelines. As soon as you provision, then your credit cost, that is also called credit cost, that will go up. Sort of hitting the other companies. We saw in Shantanu's presentation that Fusion had horrible NPAs for 2 years, 2020 and 2021, right? So they are still suffering in 2022 because of that. Satin and Spandana, look at the cost for Spandana. Yeah. So in my opinion, these are the two most interesting aspects that I would analyze, Kunal, for a
Ye-
company like Five Star. How is its cost of first of all, is its cost of borrowing really low compared to the other companies? If it is low, how are they managing to sustain that advantage? Number two, is their GNPA and NPA really that low compared to other companies? I think we saw in your presentation that it was remarkably low.
Yes.
And therefore, how are they sustaining it? That's why this company is rated at it trades at some 5x book, I think.
Yes.
Let me quickly check. Yeah, it's at 4x book right now. It used to be at 5x book some time back. Yeah, there is a clear difference in terms of Five Star and the other companies. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So Kunal, that was the intent of the analysis. So your ROA tree is absolutely right. You're trying to see 100 रुपए कमा रहा है तो कहाँ कहाँ खर्चा हो रहा है, and your conclusion was absolutely right कि 46% of the revenue is translating to PBT. But you just have to go in one step deeper to see, where are those advantages and how to explain those advantages. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Surendra, very, very good job here. It tells us that you're understanding the finance business. So good answers. Happy to see that.
One question, Nirvan. So
Yeah.
for the impairment on financial instrument, right? So the
Yeah.
provisions that we are making, that the company is making,
Yeah.
should we also check for each of these company out of the NPA, what is the percentage of it
Very good.
provisions are being made?
Very good point. Excellent point. Can anybody explain what Gaurav is trying to say?
Provision coverage ratio.
Provision coverage ratio. Yeah.
that-
Bhavna, are you on the call? Yeah, you are, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot. I just want to involve everybody, so don't get stressed or anything. But PCR, why does it matter in this context? Like, how does provision coverage ratio sort of impact the provision cost on the P&L?
Um, I'm not really sure, but
Mhm.
so does this increase the provision cost?
Yeah, you're on the right track. So imagine two companies, okay? Both of them have say a 1% GNP, okay? Which means out of 100 rupee of loans, 1 rupee is a bad loan, okay? One company decides to set aside 30 paise provisions against that 1 rupee bad loan, and another company decides to set aside 80 rupees provisions against that 1 rupee bad loan, right? So PCR is 30% for the first company, 80% for the second company. So which one will book higher provision losses in the P&L? The first
The
one or the
second.
second? Exactly. Second
Yeah.
one, right? So only looking at the provision cost, you may not be able to conclude whether that's a better lender or not. You will also have to compare the PCR ratio. So if they both have 70% provisioning and one's credit cost is much lesser than the other, it means that one generates much lesser NPA than the other. Yeah, Bhavna,
Oh,
makes sense?
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So could you repeat this? थोड़ा नहीं समझ
Yeah, so basically, Mayank, see, provisions are made against loans that go bad, right? Loans that are beyond 90 days. Okay. So suppose two companies are making the same amount of NPA, say 1 rupee of NPA for company A, 1 rupee of NPA for company B, right? Now, against an NPA, they have to mandatorily set aside something called a provision, right? So in a balance sheet, on the asset side, if you have an NPA, on the liability side, you will have to balance that by increasing your provisions against those potentially bad loans, right? So that if they go bad in the future, if the loans become delinquent, you don't have to suddenly take a hit to the PNL. You gradually keep taking a hit to the PNL by in advance only, increasing provision in the balance sheet, right? So suppose one company decides that against that 1 rupee outstanding, I will keep 30 paise only as provision. Okay. I am confident that I will recover 70 paise of that loan. So I am only keeping 30 paise as provision. Whereas the other company has more prudent risk management. It says, no, I'm not really sure. I want to be 100% sure there are no nasty surprises later on. So I will keep a 70 rupee buffer against this 1 rupee of potential bad loan, potential GNP, right? So in order for it to keep a higher PCR, it will need to take larger hits to the profit and loss statement today, right? Versus company one, which has to take a smaller hit. But it might come back to bite company one down the line, 2 years later, when that loan completely goes bad. Then suddenly it has to book 70 paise of extra loss. Whereas company two will only have to book 30 paise of extra loss, right? So if you're comparing two companies which have very different provision coverage ratios, 130% and 170%, you can't merely judge them on the basis of the credit cost, right? Or the provisioning cost on the P&L. You also have to do a check to see if both the companies have similar PCR or not, right? That's the point.
So for 5 star, abhi this data for impairment on financial estimate is for FI 2022, right? तो हम लोगों को उसका वो भी तो थोड़ा historical data भी तो देखना पड़ेगा. This could be one of thing.
Correct. Absolutely right. So ideally, this exercise should be done over 3 years for all the four companies.
No, it's an average of 3 years.
Achha, it's average of 3 years.
Average.
Yeah.
Average.
So these
Very
numbers
nice.
are average. So Kunal, you should have said that, no, in the presentation.
Sorry.
You've done all the work, but while communicating, you're forgetting to communicate the important points. Yeah.
Yes.
So 3 years of this data has taken 3 times more work, but nobody would have known that. You had not just mentioned it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a learning for you, Kunal. I mean, whatever hard work you're doing, make sure you talk about it. Yeah. Because otherwise people can't appreciate it. Okay. Anything else? Anybody wants to discuss anything else regarding this? So the point was to sort of understand why this company is so much better. And if Kunal has shown this for 3-year data, it means this is not a fluke. Yeah. Unless the average is masking high variability. I don't think that is the case. I think I've seen 5 stars numbers. It is pretty much around the same. So it's not like the average is very low, whereas there is a high volatility in the 3-year figure. It's not like that. So there is something great happening. So Gaurav, I mean, 5 star was the most impressive company to me so far.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, like after looking at this one, this ROA tree, I think that
Yeah.
just opened up my mind. I was going very happy over Fusion, but now
Yeah.
Five-Star looks much better. I mean,
Yeah.
their lending practices.
It's also valued like that, Gaurav. So it's
Hmm.
valued at 4x. So it's
But
not cheap at all.
what's the difference? I mean, like just on a very top level, Fusion is giving their loans to uh women in
Rural
Sh-
and urban, I think.
sorry,
Shantanu, Fusion
Yeah,
expert, is there. Yeah.
yeah, Fusion
yeah,
expert.
yeah.
So
Women,
yeah, women in joint
rural,
liability groups
yeah,
in rural areas, and these are mostly for income generation loan
yes,
or capital asset loan, right?
yeah.
And Kunal, Five-Star is doing something similar only compared
No,
as
it gives to small business loans.
small businesses. Yeah,
Yes.
so mostly like
Also,
income generation loans, right?
Can you repeat?
Income generation loans. So for example, like kirana hai,
Yes.
so they give some
Yes.
money
Yes.
so that they can. Right. Okay. Yes, Surendra. Yes.
in Fusion, also rural and women, they have more focus on rural areas and women. And
Hmm.
my doubt is, how far, like in rural areas, generally the repayment has more delays. I don't know, like I didn't check their NPAs, but that's my doubt.
Yeah, of course, they got hit because of COVID. Like, I mean, we saw it in Shantanu's presentation that there was a huge spike during COVID.
I mean, like their
Hmm.
main business focuses on rural areas, right?
Hmm.
Generally, in rural areas, the recovery are like payments have more delays because they don't have
Possible,
the monthly income.
possible.
Possible,
Yeah.
Surendra. So what you're saying is possible, but I think even Five-Star is not urban. Kunal,
Mhm.
Five-Star is also
Yeah.
present
It's
in rural, right?
rural.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not, an urban versus rural comparison. So there is definitely something that Five-Star is doing, which is very different. Yeah.
Yeah, the category of loan that's, I mean, since it's giving to small businesses, that way, I think they have better checks and balances over there. Probably they are able to judge a business much better through their cash flow because it's very hard to probably understand the cash flow of, say, people, right,
Yeah.
who are doing
Yeah.
normal day-to-day jobs and all. So that way they have a clear advantage, I see.
Probably. I mean, they're probably doing something great with their credit model. I would like to study this company in detail
Yeah,
and sort of understand. Even if it's not viable today, it might become viable 2 years down the line. So
I'll take a
yeah,
token amount. It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Sure. I think you've already bought token amounts in 5 of the companies
Yes,
presented, right?
absolutely.
Nice,
And
nice.
it's paying off so well. I mean, at least Fusion is paying off very well for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Chalo, let's go
Okay.
on for the next one. I'll stop recording. Thank you so much, Kunal, for that. It was very lovely. For me, it opened my eyes.
Thank you, Kunal.